Buenos nachos, and welcome to another edition of that blasphemy we like to call Major League Minor. Today we're going to start off with the WXFL Championship game. Then we're going to slide right into the XFL, the CFL. We're going to talk about the Tulsa Threat, ending everything off with the APDFL in the Oklahoma City Bounty Hunters. First, let's start off with the WXFL Championship game. The number 2 Kansas Lady Cougars traveled to Norman to face off against the number 1 OKC Force. The last time these two met up a few weeks ago, it was nothing short of a defensive battle. It took overtime to finally decide this game, and by a score of 7-0, we knew that this game was possibly going to be a mirror image, and it was. With the score of 13-6, the Oklahoma City Force finally pulled off their 2-time WXFL championship. A special congratulations goes out to Dennis Albert and crew and all of the OKC Force ladies. Great job. We're going to follow up with some more highlights next week when we get those in. Now, sliding right into the XFL, we're going to recap last week. The XFL playoffs.
Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs?
Faced the Oklahoma Chargers, traveling down to OKC to meet up with the Bulls. This was going to be a low-scoring game. As I predicted, the OKC Bulls pulled it off with the victory of 15-8 and advance on to the semifinals in the XFL. The Wichita Zombie Assassins also traveled to the Northern Oklahoma Bulldogs in Ponca City and got walloped. They got spanked by a score of 20-0. The Northern Oklahoma Bulldogs advance on themselves. Now the Oklahoma Monarchs and, of course, the Kansas Cougars had a first week bye in the playoffs. Now, speaking of which, we're going to talk about these playoffs here as we go into the XFL rankings first. Your number 1, 7-0 Kansas Cougars, no surprise, followed by the Oklahoma Monarchs, the Northern Oklahoma Bulldogs, the OKC Bulls. Of course, everybody within that first 4 teams right there is in the semifinals. Followed up by the Oklahoma Chargers, Wichita Zombie Assassins, the OKC Jaguars, and finally the Yukon Bobcats. Now, moving right along into the playoff bracket and scenario, here we go. For this week, we have got the number 4, 5-3 Oklahoma City Bulls facing off against the number 1, 7-0 Kansas Cougars. In my prediction here, I'm going to give it to the Cougars by a score of 35-7. Last time these two played, a few weeks ago, the score was pretty close. I believe it was something to the effect of 35-6 last time that these two matched up. And I believe it's going to be the same scenario as they're playing in Kansas. Next matchup, we're going to see the Northern Oklahoma Bulldogs, number 3 with a record of 6-2 this year. Quite improvement from last year, and I'm quite surprised and very proud of these guys. Facing off against number 2, the 6-1 first-year Oklahoma Monarchs. Now, I gave this one a 35-7 victory also. These two matched up a few weeks ago also. It was pretty close, so it's safe to say, in my opinion, that the score should pretty much reflect the same thing as last time. Nothing really changed between the two teams, between them and now. So, in my predictions, you're going to see the Kansas Cougars face off against the Oklahoma Monarchs in the championship game for the XFL. Now, some of you have been following along in the Southwest Sports News Facebook page and have been taking some of my polls. Keep continuing going on with the XFL this week as they are about to end their season here really soon, and kind of give some congratulations and have a little fun on the side with some of the teams. Nothing personal at all, just having a little fun go along with it. Now we're going to dive right into the CFL. Last week we saw the Oklahoma City Elite face off against the Oklahoma Desperados. This was last week's game of the week, and unfortunately we didn't have a show due to time constraints last week in my schedule, but here we are again. So that game, that score was 27-13 Desperados. The Desperados controlled most of the game, if not all the game. There was no question in my mind that they should come out with a victory. The Oklahoma City Elite, however, they do have a little bit of an offense, and I think they're going to improve here pretty soon. They still have some growing pains this year, some internal things that they need to take care of. I think in the offseason, if they do not win the championship in the CFL, they have a lot to build upon. Next, we saw the Arkansas Guardians face off against the Arkansas Battle. Not much of a battle here. With your final score, the Battle wins 27-0. After that, we saw the Queen City Grizzlies face off against Kansas City. Now, the Kansas City Saints, of course, being in Missouri, this is almost a Missouri battle in itself. But by the score of 30-0, the Queen City Grizzlies really took control of the game and just really had a quality win in my book. Next up, the Oklahoma Nightmare faced off against the Enid Enforcers. The Enforcers controlled this game all the way through. Final score was 32-12, a 20-point spread in that one. The Nightmare are having some issues with injuries, and it's really showing. They're having some issues with coaching. Unfortunately, their head coach had to depart for some of the season due to health issues. I wish him well and speedy recovery. Next, we finally saw the Arkansas Extra face off against the River Valley Reckoning. The Extra coming off with another great quality win by a score of 24-8. Finally, we saw the DCFL playoffs. Now, the Arkansas Steelers traveled down to face off against the Arkansas Tornadoes. I thought the Tornadoes, in my opinion, should have won this game, but the Steelers, surprising everybody in the league that they come into this one and win by a score of 36-18. There was an exhibition game also between the Sapulpa Panthers and the Joplin Crusaders. The Crusaders just basically got on the green, swiped, made a hole-in-one, and got a score of 58-0. Big old goose egg for the Sapulpa Panthers. But I do congratulate the Panthers for going out there and facing off a much more superior opponent and actually seeing the whole way through this season. You guys are definitely top-notch in my book. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more of some of the predictions coming up for this week and a little bit about, of course, these week's rankings. This week right now we're going to talk about number 1, the 8-0 Oklahoma Desperados. This year's dark horse. I did not expect them, honestly, to come in and just take the CFL by storm, and neither was anybody else except for the Desperados. Number 2, 7-1 Enid Enforcers. Number 3, the 7-1 Arkansas Battle. In your top 4, the 7-1 Joplin Crusaders. Number 5, the 5-3 Oklahoma City Elite, followed by number 6, the DCFL number 1 contender right now, the 6-1 Green Country Phoenix. Followed up by number 7, the 4-4 Oklahoma Nightmare. Number 8, the 4-4 Queen City Grizzlies. The Kansas City Saints. Arkansas Steelers. The Arkansas Tornadoes. Southwest Gravediggers. Coming in at number 13, the Arkansas Guardians. Followed up by the River Valley Reckoning. The Arkansas Raptors. Arkansas Extra. And Sapulpa Panthers. Now, this week's predictions we're going to talk about right after this.
Hi there, I'm Sherry, owner of Arkansas Furniture Mart. Come in and shop with me. We offer a variety of affordable furniture and mattresses fit for any home. Spruce up your bedroom with the latest new styles.
Get a queen-size mattress for just $199 or a complete set with platform bed for $350.
Check out our assortment of sofas and love seats, starting at only $5.99 for the 2-piece set. We have the best prices, we're locally owned, and we offer no credit needed financing. See you soon at Arkansas Furniture Mart.
This week's CFL predictions, we're going to see some pretty decent games, and we'll talk about a couple of games of the week. We're actually going to have 2 games of the week because of the DCFL championship game. So let's get right to it. Your number 13, 2-5 Arkansas Guardians are going to face off against the number 16, the 2-5 Arkansas Extra. I think the Extra are going to pull this one off by a 14-point spread. I think they win by 21-7. Next up, we're going to see the Oklahoma Desperados face off against the Oklahoma Nightmare. Last year, the Nightmare beat the Desperados in the XFL, but it's a new league, it's a new team, and of course, new circumstances. This one's going to be easily beat. Of course, the Desperados are going to get a 21-point favor in this one by a score of 28-7. Next up, we're going to see the Wichita Assassins are not going to be facing off against the Queen City Grizzlies. Queen City's going to get the forfeit win in a bye week. Next up from there, we're going to see the River Valley Reckoning, number 14, 2-5, are going to face off against the 7-1 Northwest Arkansas Battle. The Battle are going to take this one easy, run it home. They can put in their second string in the second corner and still win by a score of 35-24. 0. Now, this week's game of the week in the CFL, your number 5-3 Oklahoma City Elite are going to face off against the number 2, 7-1 Enid Enforcers. The Enforcers, I think, are going to take away this one in the second half, and your final score in this one should be 28-14. There is going to be a Sunday game, believe it or not, in Joplin. Your number 9, 3-5 Kansas City Saints are going to face off against the number 4, 7-1 Joplin Crusaders. And I give this one an easy win for the Joplin Crusaders by a score of 28-7. Now, part 2 for the game of the week, the DCFL playoffs. This is going to be the championship game. Everything for the Green Country Phoenix coming into this one, 6-1. Number 6 in overall standings, facing off against number 10, 3-4, the Arkansas Steelers. I gave the Green Country Phoenix a 14-point favorite in this one by a score of 21-7. Now, I do believe the Phoenix have got everything going for them and momentum, but watch out. The Arkansas Steelers, they do mean business, and they have figured out ways to win in tight games lately. So definitely want to watch that game if you can. I think it'll be well worth the admission. Go have some fun and watch that one. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about, of course, the APDFL, the Oklahoma City Bounty Hunters, of course, and the Tulsa Threat right after this.
98, 99, 100. 100 combs every day. Each armpit, each strand of hair gets individual attention. You know why? Because I care. That's why I use this. Old Spice Pro Strength. The finest street legal antiperspirant you can get outside of Mexico that's not poisonous.
Welcome back. Now let's talk about the APDFL, the Oklahoma City Bounty Hunters. Last week, the Bounty Hunters traveled down to the Louisiana area to face off against the Louisiana Lightning. The Bounty Hunters had trouble in the first half as they were having issues offensively, and of course the Lightning are a decent team. And looking through the scores throughout the game, it looked like the Bounty Hunters were able to pull through in the second half with the final score, the Oklahoma City Bounty Hunters 37, Louisiana Lightning 20. A close game fought, of course, but the Bounty Hunters always figure out a way to manage to win those games, and especially in the close ones there this year. This week, according to their schedule, they're going to be playing a home game against the Alabama Rottweilers. The Bounty Hunters right now are ranked number 2 in the APDFL, and honestly, they look to have a commanding lead in the polls right now. So the Alabama Rottweilers, unfortunately, are unranked, so I don't think this is going to be much of a contest, especially at home against these guys. So I'm going to give this one an easy 36-0 victory. Now, of course, the only team to be ahead of the Oklahoma City Bounty Hunters right now are the Chiefs. They're coming in a record of 8-0. These guys should probably meet up in the championship game if everything goes according to plan. So, Capitol Hill this weekend, Oklahoma City Bounty Hunters up against the Rottweilers. Go drink a beer, go have some fun, go watch some football. Right next up, we're going to talk about the Tulsa Threat women's football team. I hadn't had too much a privilege to find out a little bit more about this team this year, and they're going into apparently their final week, according to the Facebook. They're going to be playing this weekend, this Saturday. Kickoff is at 7 o'clock. If you go to their Facebook page, the Tulsa Threat Women's Football Tackle Football Team, you'll be able to see a little bit more about the details and everything coming up. They also have a luncheon coming up here on May the 17th to help support them at On the Border in Tulsa. Go look at their Facebook page and find out a little bit more detail on it as well. Now we're going to continue next week as we're going to talk about the XFL Championship game. And then, of course, this being the final week for the CFLs, we're going to talk about, of course, the CFL playoff scenario, how everything's going to shape up next week after we follow along with all the highlights and scores. So until then, I'm Chris Dotson reminding you to go watch some football.